Hi, everyone. This is Dylan.
And this is Fortune, otherwise
Oh,
known as a restless mind on YouTube. Huh?
and this is Fortune's 35th motherfucking birthday. Happy birthday, you son of a
No,
bitch.
no, 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 no. You stopped, so I thought you like made a mistake or
It's also
something. What the
Cinescussion.
hell?
It's also
Hey
Cinescussion,
everybody.
episode
You
11.
son of a oh man, I should have known. You know,
You
I
should have
feel like
known,
I just
but
want to
you
like
didn't, and
bleep
that's
that
what's
whole
important.
section. I just want to
No,
bleep
no.
that whole section in the
We
post, and
don't
the
we don't
audience
bleep
won't know what
intros here.
happened.
We don't bleep intros here. This is a birthday episode. Happy birthday, good sir.
No.
Happy
Oh, thank
happy
you.
to be
I
spending it
appreciate
with
it.
you here, even though we're virtual today. I mean, we're gonna hang out this week, so happy to
Yeah,
do a little bit of celebrating and some fun stuff with you.
I'm turning into an old son of a gun.
Hey, aren't
Yeah,
we
I'm
all?
gonna use that old lingo.
Aren't we all? I've been 40 since I was 17, so you're catching up to me.
Well, I'm 35 going on 18,
Right.
so it's all good.
Awesome.
I need some wisdom from you, sir.
I don't have much. Um, Shoot, man.
Oh, we're
So
screwed then.
we had a busy couple of weeks outside of fun movie stuff, but I was able to get out to the movie a few times, and we were thinking about what we wanted to do for this episode because we had a bit of a fail to plan moment. And as we were talking about it, I looked at the weather report, and Fortune and I are based out of the Seattle area, so this is nothing new for us. But it's that time of year where you look at the weather report, and the next 10 days is all rain. So we're
And I'm from Seattle, so
Mhm.
when it's rainy and all the leaves are changing colors, it's still my favorite holiday. I love fall, so I'm fine with
Yep,
it.
same. I actually love it too. I'm like, whenever I walk out and it's the sun, I like hiss. I'm like, okay, I'm like, get out of here.
Well, I like the sun, but I'm an introvert by nature, so like movies, video games, they're all very indoorsy things. So I'm happy as long as I have like my internet and my, my stuff.
Yep, yep. Well, that got us thinking. What do we like to watch? What do we like to play when we get to this time of year when there's a lot less time spent outside? So we came up with some ideas on some cozy movies, some cozy games for the season, and also before we jump into that, we're going to do some impressions on some new films that we saw because it was a pretty big release week for a lot of different things, and it will continue to be that way, I think, through December as we get to kind of award season.
Yeah, it seems like it's pretty packed with quite a few movies coming out. And then for me, I'm a big Scream fan and I have no idea if it's gonna be good, but I can't help being hopeful, and that's in January. So typically January is where movies go to die, but
Mhm.
apparently there's one that I actually want to see that's being released in January. So
Score. I know.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
That's Jasmine and I, we went and saw the Eternals a couple days ago, and this is also for the sake of transition. And we saw the Scream trailer. We saw the Scream trailer during the trailers for the Eternals, and I was like, damn, this looks really cool. It looks like they're leaning into the very self-referential horror genre stuff. Like this one seems like it's all about callbacks, and that's kind of
Seems dark. It
interesting.
seems darker too, which I
Yes,
kind of like,
and I
because I
like
felt like
how
the first two Screams were. Sorry, go ahead.
no, after you.
I was just saying, I one of the things, like, I still enjoyed Scream 3 and 4, like they were okay, but like the first two I thought were better because it recognized the tone better, and it is a horror first with some comedic elements in it, and I felt like the third and fourth one at times almost felt 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of my only issue. Like sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. Also, the same writer didn't write Scream 3, so he didn't write Gale Weathers for Courtney Cox. He wrote Monica from Friends. Literally, that entire movie,
Yeah,
you think you're watching Monica, and I'm like, what happened to Gale? Like I was like,
did
anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Kevin
This one looks
Williamson
like,
is the writer, right?
yeah, he created the series, and he went on to do a lot of awesome things through that. He lots of TV shows, The Following. If you're a Vampire Diaries fan, he started that with Julie Plec, and then he did like he had Stalker, and he had a bunch of TV series. But
Mm-hmm.
like he did Scream, and if I'm correct, he was house sitting, and if I remember reading, I think he was broke, and he was house sitting for like a weekend, and there was some crazy situation in the '90s where I guess he watched it all weekend. It was like this weekend news report where there was like two or three murders on a college campus, and they were trying to figure out who, like catch the killer. And at the end of the weekend, I think they did catch him or something. But he watched it on TV, and it's like since he was house sitting in this big house, he was like kind of terrified. He was like,
Right.
and I guess that gave him his idea for like Scream. And in case people don't know, I'm a huge Scream head. Just so you guys know, I'm thinking about directing, like devoting a whole episode to us doing the Scream trilogy and maybe some Wes Craven because of the new movie coming out. So I might go into this a bit more. But anyway, the original script was actually called Scary Movie. That's why the spoof by the Wayans brothers is called Scary Movie.
Mm-hmm.
They changed it to Scream later, but the original script was called Scary Movie. So
nice. Well, this is news to me, and I'm excited about it. But yeah, I saw the Scream 5 trailer, and like you, I was like, this one looks really dark, and I like they're making Ghostface seem really big and mythic, and they're having these really like epic shots, which aren't in the other movies. And then it got to the title card, Scream, and that was like January 11th, and I was like, shit.
I know. And the worst part is like a lot of things. I think it might have gotten pushed back, just like a lot of things. So I don't know if it had originally planned to be there, but I think that's what ended up happening. But I could be wrong. I was also told that if you guys did like the trailer, or some people were saying they liked the trailer, but they felt like it showed a lot of cuts, so you didn't get to see a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I had read, the way the movie is written, they had a really hard time cutting this trailer because they felt like there's no way to cut it without ruining something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because of the way the movie's written, they felt like all the best scenes would reveal something. So so yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't even know if they're gonna make a second trailer after I heard that. Like, I'm wondering if that's just gonna be it, you know?
Well, that's exciting. So, we'll be there, and I think that's a great idea. I don't know if I never saw 4, so it'd be a good time for me to revisit all of them.
I think it's worth watching.
Cool. The Eternals is one of the movies that I was able to go see over the last weekend. You know, Marvel is my favorite movie studio, and I just adore everything that they put out. And you know, I never have too many gripes. Sarcasm aside,
and you hate Zack Snyder.
And I can't stand Zack Snyder. I know. Which actually, you know what? Visually, this movie did have quite a few reminiscent shots of Man of Steel, Justice League, Batman vs Superman, and you know the way those movies looked wasn't digital? Really the problem. Not so much CGI, where the CGI is kind of hit and miss, but I'll get there. But more so composition, the way the Superman characters handled. You know, the sun's always behind him, and those slow floating kind of epic moments. There's a lot of those.
That sounds pretty.
Yeah. The movie's very pretty. But going into my thoughts, I'll get my positives out of the way. In my opinion, the most beautiful Marvel movie I've seen in quite a long time, or at least I can't remember one quite looking this good outside of maybe, you know, Endgame and Infinity War looks pretty good. But this one seemed to have its kind of a unique color palette, which a lot of them have the same color palette. The shot composition is really beautiful, and there were definitely moments of like really cool, big, epic stuff. And that's kind of what I enjoy. The performances were okay. Some are a little stoic or robotic, but that's kind of by design because the characters are stoic and robotic. So, you know, it's fine. And Richard Madden is probably a standout. The dude, every time I see him in anything, he's awesome, and this is no different.
I loved him in The Bodyguard as well. Like, he's fantastic.
Yeah, he is fantastic. And the entire cast is really they have a lot of great chemistry, which is kind of fun to see. That being said, I think the script was really rough. I think I was really excited going into this because what I do like about Marvel is the big cosmic, intergalactic, larger world consequence type of stuff. And this seemed like a story that was going to deal with a lot of that. And it insinuates a lot of it, but also kind of uses a lot of it as backstory. So kind of falls short there. And also, they're just, you know, plot conveniences and action scenes that should have felt cooler. The villain is back to being really weak. I don't remember. This might actually be the worst villain, I think, that Marvel has had. And like, it wasn't offensively bad, but yeah, I was talking to Jasmine after the movie, and she loves Marvel, and she was like, why was that person in that movie? Why, you know, what were they doing there? It didn't seem to have any point. And I was like, I'm inclined to agree with you. And we were driving home, and usually, like, you know, we're always talking about movies when we're driving home, and this was like a brainstorm session on how we would have liked it better.
And I know Jasmine like loves like all things Marvel, or likes a lot of Marvel stuff. So
yeah,
if she's criticizing it, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So.
But that being said, you know, it falls back into that Marvel trap where I'm never really offended by Marvel movies, but I won't remember them. You know what I mean? And this is one of those. But when I do think back to it, I will think about how beautiful it was. It was a really pretty movie, so that was
Well,
enjoyable.
that's awesome for director Chloe Zhang then, you know, because I
Yep.
mean, hopefully that'll catapult her to other things too.
Mhm.
Because you know how it is, like whether the movie is necessarily great or not. I mean, like you can see good directing, right?
Mhm.
So if she's a good director, I mean that's good. Because I mean, I looked up some of her other films. She has some like they're not films I've seen, but like she has at least 3 films before this. I think I've heard of all of them. Like one on the indie circuit or 2 on the indie circuit, I think, and then the last one was Nomadland or something like that. But
Yeah.
she has like 3 films that have all been rated really really well. And I've heard that they were good. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it seems like she's a good director. So
She was the second woman to ever win female director after who directed The Hurt Locker.
Catherine Bigelow.
Catherine Bigelow. Yeah, yeah, who was the first, which I really like that movie.
She won for The Hurt Locker.
Yeah, she won over Avatar, which was like the
Oh,
big thing.
yeah, no. Oh no, that's right. No, she did. The Hurt Locker was great. I kind of feel like it deserved it. Like, don't get me wrong, I loved Avatar, but
Yeah.
Hurt Locker was pretty intense.
Yeah, it was super intense. And
That's
you
a
and me are really into
great
character
movie.
study stuff, so you can show us
I
like a
am,
whole bunch
yeah.
of amazing alien worlds that we've never seen, and we're like, yeah, but did it go deep into the alien psyche?
Yeah. I mean, every now and then when a movie does, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like most of the time it does not. Like, that's why like Arrival is such a unique piece. To me, Arrival, I honestly feel like this. You know how we were talking about last time how Whiplash and
Black
what
Swan.
was the other one? Black Swan, they almost seem like 2 sides of the same coin,
Yes.
right? I kind of feel that way with like Arrival and Contact now that you've seen it.
Ooh, yeah,
Like
absolutely.
it's not quite the same thing, but I would put them in the same realm of without trying to spoil anything. I would put them kind of similarly, like kind of, you know what I mean? Like I would kind of do that.
Absolutely.
Like when I saw Arrival, there were aspects of it that were very Contact for me, and not in a way where like it was ripped off. I mean, like I would put them in the same style of film for like what you think you're going into and then what you get and how beautifully profound it is and how much more interesting the movie is than you thought it was going to be based on the trailer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they're similar kind of movies in that way. So,
yeah, they're absolutely similar movies in that way. You know, I think I said this last time, but Denis Villeneuve's the streak of films he's on is absolutely ridiculous.
I know
It's absolutely
crazy.
ridiculous. All of them aren't just good. Like his movies aren't just good. They're
excellent.
They're stellar.
They're all excellent.
Like they are all so good, and he's been able to keep it up for a very long time.
I agree. I feel like what the only other director I can think who's had a good string, but even he's had a good string, but it seems like he's taken a break. What was it Alexander Inarritu? Like he did his film.
What did he make?
He did. I believe his first film was a Mexican film, or I think that I heard it was like really good. But then he did Birdman, and then he did The Revenant. Like he's another really good director. And I feel like since The Revenant, I haven't heard of him making anything. Like it's almost like he's taken a break the last 4 or 5 years. Like I could be wrong, but
he made a Netflix film that was really good.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay. Cause
Alejandro Inarritu. I'm probably butchering. Sorry, Alejandro.
Let me see. Alejandro G. Inarritu. I think it's Inarritu, but I could be wrong. It's something like I just looked him up. So because I remember thinking about that, and I was like, he was another one that was on a roll like that. And then after The Revenant, I was like, what has he been making? Like, I don't even know if he made anything, so I wasn't sure.
Never mind, he didn't make a Netflix film. I'm confused. I'm confused. Netflix is just getting everybody.
Interesting. Okay, so after The Revenant, he did a short called Carne y Arena, and then a video short for Nike, and now he's doing another film called Bardo. So I guess he is working on something, and it looks like this might be a Spanish language film actually. It looks like it's all of a I think it is cool.
Very cool. My favorite movie of his is a Spanish language film. It's called Beautiful. It's spelled in Spanish.
Oh yeah, that was him, wasn't it? Yep. Yeah, and then he also did, was it Babel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did Babel too. Yeah. He's another one that did good stuff. He did some good movies too.
Yep. Yeah.
I think Babel was the older one I'm thinking of that I saw when I was younger, and I thought that was an interesting movie.
I thought it was pretty interesting too. I actually didn't love that one, but I did love his other work.
I didn't love it, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Same. But yeah, I would say if you're a Marvel fan and you got to see the Eternals, you're not going to catch anything new. But at this point, if you're invested in the story and need to know what's going on, it'll be helpful to see the events of this story to most likely understand what's going to happen going forward.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then I did not go out to theaters. I saw something on Netflix, and then I called you and was like, Fortune, you need to see this movie on Netflix. It was a delightful little movie called...
It was a really interesting movie. Yeah, like it had a lot of style, which I did not expect like at all because I didn't see a trailer or anything. So
Yep.
yeah,
What was it called?
it's called The Harder They Fall.
That is
Was that
correct.
a test? Was that a
No. But you passed.
Oh, you guys don't know something happened off camera. That was a total setup.
It wasn't a setup.
Sure.
I had full faith in you.
Sure.
And you were correct. My faith was not misplaced.
I'll just say that I said the name wrong before.
I don't even remember what you said, but it was absolutely not what it was called.
It was absolutely incorrect.
Yeah. I don't think there was a single word in there that was in place.
No, because Harder and Fall were in there. I remember that.
I don't think they were in that order, though.
Oh, but whatever. Okay, the point is, this film was a Netflix original, and I was extremely excited by the cast because I hadn't seen a trailer or anything for this, but like when I looked at the cast, like it has a really great opening scene, and then it goes into like a very cool montagey intro song. And I have to say one thing for this movie: the soundtrack is awesome, like for real. Like it's a really cool soundtrack, but it has so many actors that I really like in it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then I saw people I didn't even like, little cameos from people that I didn't even know were going to be in it, which was great.
Yep.
But yeah, I love Regina King. I love Lakeith Stanfield. I mean, dude, Delroy Linnell was in it. I didn't even know he was in it. Like, it was so cool.
Yep.
Yeah, like it was awesome. And I mean, there's quite a few actors in it actually, but.
Yep. The cast was just going full cylinder in this movie. I mean, it's led by Jonathan Majors, who you probably know from Lovecraft Country, or he pops up if you've seen Loki, which I haven't even seen Loki, and I know he pops up, so nothing's a surprise anymore.
He's starting to pop up in quite a few things, yeah. And then Idris Elba's in it too.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
Idris Elba plays a Western villain, and if you just imagine Idris Elba as a villain in a Western, it's that. Yeah, it's exactly that.
Yeah, which is pretty great. I had no complaints about that one.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty great. But the entire cast is phenomenal. My favorites, who both played supporting characters on the evil gang side in this movie, were Lakeith Stanfield, who plays a character named Cherokee Bill, who's kind of the right hand of Idris Elba's character, and then his left hand, so to speak, is a character named Trudy Smith, played by Regina King. And they are
those are my favorite characters too, actually.
Yeah,
like,
I'm a sucker.
I loved Regina King in this movie, man. Oh,
she's a blast. So cool. I'm a sucker for supporting evil characters in Western films. I think they're always my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like sometimes they're given the coolest stuff too. Like you know, like I mean, even Darth Maul didn't say anything, but he has like the coolest character design. He had the best lightsaber fight. Like he's super well known. He was literally just the right hand of he's the badass. You know, he's basically, you know what I call those characters?
Oh.
They're my favorite kind of characters. I call them, because of the raid, I call them the Mad Dogs. They're the mad dogs that you let off the leash, essentially, and I love those characters very much. So.
Yeah, so the plot going on in this movie is Jonathan Major plays our lead, who as a young man, his parents are killed by Idris Elba's character, and the story cuts some odd 7 to 10 years later, and it's actually cutting to the end of him wrapping up his revenge for
which is interesting.
Yeah, the gang that killed his father. They killed his father and mother, and they carved a cross into his forehead. And you know, we get to the point where he's wrapping up his revenge, and he's preparing to settle down with a woman who he loves, who is not having any of his shit because she knows he's not ready to settle down. And from there, it turns out that the leader, who he thought was put away in prison for life, has been pardoned, which kind of puts him on this adventure to kill this leader and this new gang that he's assembled called the Crimson Hoods.
And not to mention he has his own little gang that has been steal. They're almost like the Dexter for bank robbers. They like steal from the people that rob from the banks,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
basically. Which
Exactly.
is kind of a fun little gig.
So the most obvious thing about this movie that is really cool and unique is this is an entirely black led cast with a black director, and the entire setting that they put
Hmm.
in the West is it's incredible to see. It's really really cool,
It
and
is. It is
the
cool.
combination of language and music and just all of it is beautiful. In
And
fact, there's a really funny scene where they need to go to a white town to rob
yes,
a bank,
that was one of my favorite things
and the
ever.
entire
Like it
town.
was so. I have to just say, guys. Before we get there, do you mind if I just interject with
Please.
something? Please. Okay, okay. So the opening lets you know kind of what you're in for because essentially there are two opening scenes back to back,
Hmm.
basically. And what's interesting about it, in my opinion, is that the first opening scene is very thematic and dramatic, and a lot of it's like a one shot that leads to something, and it's just really well direct. It's really well done,
Hmm.
right? And the second scene is well done too, but it's not what you think. Like it's like the first scene until someone starts getting shot,
Yeah, it goes
and
super
then it
pulpy.
becomes like this super pulpy, and like I loved it. I actually loved it, and I remember going to look up the director because I'm like, I don't know who this director is, but I'm 100% certain that they're a huge Quentin Tarantino fan, and so am I.
Yep.
So I was like, and his name's James Samuel, I guess,
Yep.
or James. I think it's James Samuel.
James
But
Samuel.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and I'll just say that I feel like the fact that it's this black led cast, and it's like it all basically comes off. It's basically like almost like an alternate history kind of story. It's really cool. I thought the way they did it without trying to explain it or set it up, they just did it like that. That's just it. You're in the world. You're getting the hang of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really. Um, I feel like it's very immersive very quickly, which I like
Yep.
quite a
Yep.
bit.
I agree. And I like the introductory card to the film is
Me too.
these characters were real. This story is
Yeah.
not. Which was really fun to me
Yeah. Exactly.
to start
Yeah.
Googling all of these
Yeah.
like Western icons that were actually around at that time and start learning a bit about them. It was really fun
Yeah.
to dig through on
Yeah.
Wikipedia and Google and all that.
Yeah, it basically tries to juggle both like an actual dramatic, like, action spaghetti western with also being kind of campy too.
Hmm.
And I feel like it succeeds sometimes and doesn't at others, but sometimes they walk balance pretty well at different points in the movie. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Um, you know, it's funny. I do have a handful of critiques for this movie. But at the same time,
I
we
do
were
too.
talking about this a little. I'm looking forward to hearing yours because even though I do have critiques, like we were talking about this before, like as I walked away, like I was just sitting there like that movie was so fucking fun. Like it was just good. Like it was really fun to watch. There were some stupid plot conveniences and some weird kind of decisions with actions. Like the tone can be all over the place, but I think all the actors were just having such a blast. I think, in fact, everybody was so good that it made it feel like there were too many characters. Like I just wanted to spend more time with some of these people because everybody was so interesting, which is a good and a bad
Yeah.
thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I felt like I think we were talking slightly before this, and we had mentioned that directing wise, there's some really cool stuff. It has a lot more style than I expected, which was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like I said, I love the soundtrack. I love that it's not like it's not like really a spaghetti western music most of the time. It's
Nope.
like this hip hop rap kind of, and it really goes well. And some of the like really sick rap music that's going on with like some of their like almost like villain introduction or hero introduction, like riding on horses. It's badass. It's
Yeah.
so fucking sick.
Yeah.
Like it really is. Like I was like, dude, modern westerns, let's go.
Yep. The scene where Idris Elba
But
gets out of prison was so great. It
exactly.
was so great.
Exactly. Dude, the train sequence was one of my favorite sequences in the whole thing. And honestly, the way that's written, that's why I'm like, this writer director likes Quentin Tarantino. Like I'm just being honest, he does.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in necessarily a bad way. Like people influence people. Like when I finally finish the first feature, I'm sure there will be some Tarantino-esque moments because I love him too. I like conversation. I like exploring things through scripts. And I like that he's not afraid to have a dialogue in the middle of a movie. Like I like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, the train sequence with Lakeith Stanfield was I love Lakeith Stanfield in that scene. I wanted to see more of him. Like
Yeah,
like no joke throughout the movie. I felt like after that scene he's more just kind of quiet, you know? Like and I was
yeah.
like, no.
What was funny after that scene is you see he runs that scene, like he really does. He's
For
kind of
sure.
putting this plot into action, and you get this feeling that he's kind of the bad guy with a code. Like he does bad things, but he follows a certain moral system. And then you get halfway through the movie, and you're like, no, he doesn't. Like,
No,
he
he
doesn't at
doesn't at
all.
all.
Yeah.
Like as a matter of fact, like that's one of my gripes writing wise. Like they foreshadowed it so much that this group of villains, they cheat at everything they do. There isn't a single fair moment ever.
Hmm.
Like if there's a fight that's supposed to happen, someone hands someone a gun for him to use. Like
Yeah.
like it's never fair. So some of the moments at the end that are tried to be that are they're trying to play off as like a climatic oh my god moment, none of them work,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because you're like you know what's going to happen because you've seen all this.
Yeah.
So it almost would have been better if you didn't show us all that so that we were actually surprised when it happens.
Hmm.
And then your question wondering, wait, did he cheat now or is his legend just a lie? Like you know what I mean? Like it could have been more interesting, or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like most of my gripes about this film are all writing because the cast is, for the most part, phenomenal. There's one actor that I didn't love, but like overall, the cast is phenomenal. And I agree with what you said. Like they carried a lot of the film because like the moments of the film that are like really cheesy to the point where unfortunately they're actually kind of bad.
Hmm.
Like it's still kind of enjoyable because the performance around, even if it's a bad scene, the actors are still giving it their all.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so it's kind of like it's like the scene before was like legitimately awesome and really good, and then this scene writing wise is actually kind of terrible,
My
but the actors are still trying their asses off. So it's a really bad scene, but I end up laughing a lot. Like normally when something's really bad, my mind goes, "Uh-oh," and I'm just kind of irritated,
yeah.
because I'm like, But in this case, I'm just like, "Uh-oh,"
Yeah.
and I can't
My
stop.
my favorite one of those that actually it was funny because it started dumb and then it started kind of good and then it circled around to dumb and then the actor did
Yeah.
it so well it circled back around to badass is the scene.
Which one?
It's near the end of the movie before they have the final confrontation in Redwood City, um,
Hmm.
and they're in their camp and they're preparing and somebody starts singing a song
Oh
and then
God!
it
Yeah, the
does.
final
Yeah,
shot. That final
it
shot.
slows into
Oh,
Jonathan Majors and he starts
yeah,
singing and he just puts his entire being into that last line.
yeah.
He starts like tearing up and all that, and I was like, this is so bad it's good that it's bad that it's good.
But then the problem with that scene though is I was enjoying it kind of,
Yeah.
and then I kind of was like, oh, now it's cheesy. But then for me, it ended on cheese again
Yeah.
because like he started singing, I liked it, but then it just stayed on this really weird shot where he looks at the camera and it looks so
Yeah.
corny. It's like, no, you shouldn't have gone with that angle, man. Like you should not have gone with that angle.
But John Majors
And then
sold
it
it.
just
He can
and then
sing.
it just cuts away. So I was like, oh no. Like,
um
yeah, he can sing though.
yeah.
He can sing though. I didn't know that. He's
And
cool.
my last, and
Oh.
I thought it was a little gripe, but it kind of added up. Was a lot of the movie takes place in the city I mentioned, Redwood City, which is cool. But damn, if it doesn't look obviously like a set.
It so
Yeah,
does. And then unfortunately they did this really bad idea, which it's a cool idea for a shot, but there's a shot where they actually track through the whole town.
yeah.
And they should not have done
No, they
that
should.
because I was literally like
The scene
I
that
was
goes over
like
Idris Elba's shoulder from like the
yeah,
saloon to
yeah.
the church, and you're
Yeah,
like, ooh,
I was literally like, no, you shouldn't have done that on this set, man.
yeah,
Like, no.
yeah,
And then I think another issue I have, it's not really an issue, but another thing that I think makes it look also like a set is it's too clean.
yeah,
If that makes sense, like for a western, it is like everything inside is super. Even the opening scene, it's a beautiful set, but I was like, all those vegetables are like shiny, like the walls are clean, like it's too clean for that time, like it just doesn't always come off believable even if it looks pretty,
yeah,
like it's just kind of like, okay, so maybe the director just went for a clean look,
yeah,
but like in the city, it doesn't help that set look more real, like in some places when it's not like a wide it might pass, but like the moment you get like a wide down the street you're like, hmm.
right, right. Um, but you know what? At the
It's
end of
like,
the day, do I want to see Regina King in a black bowler cap and a long black duster coat
well,
doing evil shit again? Absolutely. I'm probably going to watch this movie again. I thought it was a blast.
I and you asked my opinion earlier. I would say I'm at I almost feel kind of like I did at the end of Malignant,
Uh huh.
where it's like there are parts of it I like so much that I can't forget them, and it's just so much fun, right?
Yeah.
And then there are parts of it that are so cheesy it was actually kind of bad at like really bad at points.
Yep.
But they're like moments, and then the next scene might be good though. So it's like I can't dwell on it too long.
Hmm.
So it's weird because like you said, it's a really fun movie. Like at the end of the film, I did feel like I had a lot of fun,
Hmm.
but I can't say that I liked it, but I can't say that I disliked it either. So I'm like left in this state where like I guess the question is, would I watch it again? And I'm like, yes,
Yeah,
I
you watched
would.
it. Yeah. And
So I would recommend it for sure. Like just because it is fun, and they definitely gave it their all for sure. And the acting is pretty great. Like
hmm
there's one person I thought was really wooden, but I won't say who it is. I'll let y'all see if you feel the same way.
totally.
But pretty much the cast is great. And my main issue is I feel like you can start seeing the story issues. Like as you get halfway through, I think I told you there's like a character
Oh
that
yeah.
I'll just say I think is wooden. Uh, there's a character that makes a decision halfway, like near the end of the second act, and you're just like, even as they're saying it, you're literally like,
Why?
this doesn't make any sense. Like this isn't even like a bad plan. It's not a plan. This
Yeah.
is like saying I'm gonna go play basketball, and on your way there, you walk into a saloon and then lay down in the back room with someone you don't know. I mean, it's like that random.
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like you're literally like, what's the end game with this?
Yeah.
Like I don't understand. And you're going in alone, so it's actually pointless because you have no leverage. No, like and then you realize, oh, this just happened to set up the third act. That's
Yeah.
basically the whole thing. And I was like, so like moments like that really make me roll my eyes, and those are the moments where it can't recover from being too corny that it's good because it's just really bad writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then after that, you get into moments that are just genuinely fun again, and you're just like, like I don't know what to say. Like I'll watch it again. Like that's what
Yep.
I'll say.
I
I will.
I
Like,
told you when it got to that plan, I actually thought it was such a bad plan that I was like, oh, they're gonna like double cross the audience, and there's actually gonna be something
nope.
going on in the back. No, that was the
Nope.
plan.
It was actually that. It was actually that bad. And then there's a
But
moment towards the end, I think I told you about, where I was literally like, "Oh God, they're gonna do this or this," and
yeah,
then like I'm like, "Why is there no shooting?" And then I'm like,
that
"No, don't do it." It's like as it's leading to it, you're like, "Don't you say it?"
yep,
And then they do, and
exactly.
you're like, "Ah!" Like
For
you're
me,
like, "Oh my."
that part worked. I gotta be like the actor who led that scene did it so well that I was like, this is working for me.
But again, I thought it was so cliched bad
It
to me.
was. It
But at
was
the same time,
crazy
the
for sure.
performance was great, and that's another reason why it's so hard, because the performance was legitimately
Yeah,
good. It's like Leonardo DiCaprio acting out like a really shit script or something. But
acting out the room.
it's like yeah, like there's moments of the script that are genuinely really cool. Like there's some lines I loved in
Mhm.
this movie. Like there's quite a few memorable lines actually. Like,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm at an impasse. Would I recommend it? Hell yes, because it's interesting.
Mhm.
Would I say it's good? I don't know. Like I don't know. I just know that it's worth a watch for sure. It's fun. I'll say that it is fun.
Yep. And all I know is that I'm excited to see what James Samuel does next because he seems awesome. Like he
Yeah,
seems really awesome.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he is
So some
very,
moments.
very
Yeah.
British. So to see someone who grew up in
Is
London
he
make
really?
this movie, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm happy it
Oh,
exists.
I actually didn't know that. Cool.
Hmm.
I actually
I'm
hadn't looked
happy
up
it
who the director was.
exists.
I didn't know he was British. Very cool.
Hmm.
He was probably
Um,
super inspired by other stuff too, then, like Sergio Leone
yeah.
and a lot of the Italian westerns and stuff.
Oh yeah, this movie has so many Sergio Leone references. There are Quentin Tarantino references
It
too.
does.
But I mean, Quentin
Yeah.
Tarantino's
Like,
movies are all Sergio Leone references anyway. So I
yeah,
mean,
that's
this
what I
is
mean. He
awesome.
like Sergio Leone's like I think one of his favorite classical
Yeah,
directors. So yeah, that works. Like yeah, it's
exactly.
all a vacuum.
Yep, it's all a vacuum. Well, I'm happy that it sounds like we kind of thought similarly of it. We thought it was fun with a
Yeah.
bunch of issues, but so fun that the issues were like meaningful, but also meaningless, but also meaningful.
Yeah, seeing Regina King as a badass cowboy or cowgirl, I don't
Yeah.
know what you want to badass villain in a
Yeah.
western. Like I love it, and I love the do rag like down backwards one. I thought that was so cool. Like
Yep.
I loved it so much. Like I thought her style was so cool. She almost like could come out of like a really cool graphic novel comic book. Like like just really cool.
This movie felt like
I
a
loved it.
graphic novel, actually. That's a really good way to
It
put it.
kind of did.
This movie felt a lot like a
Yeah, it kind
graphic
of
novel.
does. because of its pulpiness and the way some things are handled. Like some of the writing is corny, but it's almost like if that were a graphic novel, you'd almost expect that,
Right.
like
Yep.
how some things in animes are cool when you're watching the anime, but if you were thinking about somebody say that out loud, that would be really corny. But it's cool for the anime because you know the medium, right? Like, yeah,
Exactly.
it's weird. I love
Exactly.
Regina King though too, so I have a bias. I've always loved Regina King. She's awesome. So
Um, I want to do one more quick impression of a movie that we're going to deep dive next week because you haven't had a chance to see it yet.
sure.
But also, before I do, I want to hear an impression from you because I got to talk a little bit about Dune the other week, but now you've had a chance to see Dune too, and you've had a chance to sit on it for
Oh.
a little bit. And I just thought of this. I'd kind of love to hear your
Okay.
thoughts after sitting on that movie for a week.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I remember you telling me that it was incredibly, the word you used was immersive.
Yep.
And I think that that's a very good word. I have to admit, I've actually never seen Timothy Chalamet. I've
Mm-hmm.
heard great things about him, but I think all the dramas he's been in the last few years, I am quite behind on. Like I said, I've been watching a lot of TV shows and miniseries. Um, so I kind of fell behind on movies, to be honest. And this was my first time seeing him, and I actually thought he was pretty great. He's kind of a little bit more of a stoic character, but I feel like for the kind of person he's playing with the type of responsibility that he has, I kind of like the way that he played it. And this is also coming from someone who I've never read the books and I've never seen the original film or the miniseries. So I legitimately don't know anything about the story. I just know sci-fi. There's like a desert planet, and now there's giant worms. Like
Yeah.
because you see the cover and everything, right? That's all I knew.
Yep.
It is definitely more of a political film. So I could see if you're someone that just wants like Transformers, you just want a lot of action, maybe it's not for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if you care about like a really, really elaborate story, um, I think it's quite good. I really, really liked it. I also feel like there's a lot they had to try to cover through exposition,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like the way they handled it. Yes, it is heavy exposition at points, but I feel like it's very needed based on how much information they're trying to give you in essentially what's the first part of a two-part film event.
Yeah.
So clearly, I imagine the second one's going to be very action-packed and very climactic based on this film. But even this film, it had some pretty good action scenes. I would say the fight choreography is good. And nothing blew me away, but it was
Mm-hmm.
good. Nothing about it was bad. Really well shot though.
Yeah.
Because Denis Villeneuve is great. I liked all of the characters. I was actually surprised. I liked all of the characters. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Jason Momoa is just so lovable at all times. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what character he plays. It's like you better put him in a role where we're all just gonna love this guy
Yep.
because it's just gonna happen. Like he's awesome. He's a great character. I love Oscar Isaac. I always have. So I actually loved the role that he played. And of course, I love Rebecca Ferguson. I
Mm-hmm.
love her. Like I've loved her in everything she's in, and even though it's not necessarily my favorite movie, I loved her character in Doctor Sleep.
I
It
love
was
Doctor Sleep and her
I could see
character in Doctor Sleep. Yeah.
dude, I could see an entire movie with her
Yeah.
in it. I would love to just be back with that character. The way she played it, it's so I don't even know how to describe it. Like it's like everything was this new discovery, and she was in this space that no one else was in,
Mm-hmm.
and everything was magnificent and everything was magical, but she was evil.
Yeah.
Like it was so cool. Oh like it uh I love Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the casting for Dune was great. I thought the way the sandworms, I felt like they're created as more of like a presence to be weary of in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Like what happens with them doesn't seem very climactic or monumental, and I know some people were upset about that, but I imagine based on where the story's going, that it literally says Dune Part One at the beginning.
Yeah.
I feel like the people that want the action aspects, I feel like they're going to get all of it in the second one. From my experience, from what I deemed from this movie, I really liked it, but it feels like the reason they called it Part One at the beginning is to be very transparent about that it's not a complete product. Like the
Yeah.
movie does work as an arc on its own, but it clearly seems like this is one of those situations where you probably want to have a doom day, and watch both of them.
Yeah.
It seems like that's what it is. But theaters nowadays won't pay for 5 hour long movies. Like nowadays, they
No.
won't. So,
Especially during
uh,
COVID. It finally got it
yeah,
was greenlit
exactly.
finally, but during the time of our
It
last
was, yeah.
podcast, it wasn't greenlit yet. And that would be like seeing Fellowship of the Ring or Kill Bill Part One
It
And if
would
those
be.
movies were made in COVID, it'd be in the same situation where it's like, I really hope this makes its money back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I really need my part too,
Yeah.
because I love this so much, and imagine it not happening, right? That would be
Mhm.
awful.
Yeah.
Especially with something that does have a great setup like this. Some of the tech and everything. Another thing I like about Denis Villeneuve, and he did this with Arrival too. I like stylized, really pretty visual effects and stuff. I do,
Mhm.
and they do work for some movies. But I feel like the only negative about those is that they're beautiful, but they never look real.
Mhm.
They look cool, but they never look real. If that makes
Yeah.
sense. Denis Villeneuve always goes for like photorealism in his movies. That's his style, and I really appreciate it because like stuff CG that you know is CG because it kind of has to be, but because of the color grade and everything, it really does blend to the environment, and a lot of stuff looks really real in this film.
Yeah.
Like for real, like it's actually really impressive.
Mhm.
And I kind of like that. And for me, that with good performances and like, but those kind of choices are what makes it immersive for me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that's what makes it immersive for me. Um, so I I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like yeah, that's basically what I'm coming back to. I don't want to spoil too much because it did just come out and there is a second part. So I feel like even though it's been out for a couple weeks now, since there is a part 2 coming, I really don't want to spoil anything. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
but I would say I would strongly recommend watching Doom. I think it's really great. Like expect it to not be like it has some good action scenes, but it's not an action movie. It's a good movie. You know what I mean? It's a good story building movie with good characters. There's also some cool elements to it that I didn't know, like the voice and stuff. I mean, if you're a Doom fan, you know what that is. I didn't even know something like that existed in this. So that was like this whole. I'm like, all right, it's like kind of Star Warsy too. Like I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
It's like,
Totally.
and I also see um, someone posted an article that I thought was interesting that they were saying that like I guess compared to the original films or whatever, they felt like this movie stripped a lot of I think she said something about like someone wrote an article about they felt like this film stripped a lot of some of the Islamic influences from the original,
Oh,
and I thought that was interesting because like I don't know anything about them, but I saw a huge Islamic influence on at least
huge.
some of the way some of like the way the certain groups of people are portrayed and their belief system and how like how widespread it is around that like I personally saw that without even knowing that was even a thing like I was like, oh, I feel like Islam was a huge inspiration for certain sets, like because when you're inventing a group of people, you take stuff from all over the place that but I definitely see a huge influence there. So yeah, like
Yeah.
that was interesting. Like now I'm interested because I almost want to like see the originals to see like what made like whoever wrote that article feel that way, because I'm like maybe there was even more, like I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was really interesting.
We
So
were talking about, I won't go into too much detail, but we were kind of breaking down. We're like, does this feel like a story about the manipulation that church and state puts upon foreign people for resources?
uh,
Kind of feels like
oh,
that.
one story. Yeah, one story for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it's also by the way, all the people who hated Avatar. Ah, same story.
Yes.
Like
Same
again,
story.
I'm just selling you,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, it's the story of the Native Americans. It's like, no, you just don't like it because it was literal that, but
Yeah.
like, it's the same story we've seen 1,000 times in every movie because it's basically a telling of what humans do to each other. Like it's just true. Like it's not.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
people were like,
There's
it's like
countless
Dancing with Wolves.
references.
It's Pocahontas. It's like, yes, because those things are all based off of reality. Like that's
Right.
why.
Are you?
And here is another one, almost the exact same thing, except instead of other stuff, it's special sand. Like
And
it's
that's
and
why.
there's an indigenous people, and awful people who care about stuff on a planet that's not even theirs want it, so you're willing to wipe out the people for blah blah blah. That's why one thing I'll say about the story without spoiling it, there is a little caveat to that
Mhm.
about the group that comes to the planet, the who Timothy
Chalamet.
Chalamet's character is a part of.
Yep.
I do think that caveat was interesting. That's not what I expected. I totally thought it was going to be, and there's a little bit of a caveat to that, which is nice. It's actually nice, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That didn't go how I expected it to,
Yeah.
and so that was kind of like, oh, cool.
Totally. Totally.
Something a little different.
Well, maybe once I'd love to deep dive Dune because we had some really great conversations after the movie, but I think maybe we should wait for the Blu-ray release. I think maybe once it comes
Yeah,
out, enough people have seen it by then where we can start
that's
really. diving
That's
in.
exactly how I feel. So I apologize, guys. I would love to go into it in more depth, but because it is really new,
Mhm.
I would like to give it at least a couple months, 2, 3 months, for a lot of you to see it. That way, when I'm talking about it, I feel like you're kind of with us rather than me spoiling something.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the Doom fans by then will probably have seen it. So,
Yep.
but I strongly encourage it. Doom's pretty great. You can see it in the theater. I think it's also available on HBO Max right now for a little while longer if you have HBO Max. I definitely recommend it.
Yep. Awesome. And with that, another movie we're going to deep dive into next time, which isn't quite as big of a release as Dune, but
Hmm.
it's the new Edgar Wright movie. It's called Last Night in
Yes.
Soho, and I had a chance to see it.
Yes.
The movie is led by Thomasin McKenzie and also Anya Taylor Joy. And, there were some directions that the story went that were not shown in the trailer. So I'm going to kind of give you the synopsis that the trailer suggests.
Perfect.
And that is really about a young woman who gets accepted into a fashion design school in London. And it's her first opportunity to go to the big city. And very shortly after she arrives, she rents a room where when she goes to sleep, she's able to experience um, a time that she absolutely idolizes, which is the 1960s in London. She listens to 1960s music. She loves the fashion, um, the culture, all of those things. And she starts experiencing 1960s London through the eyes of another woman who was alive during that time. And you know, it starts out very glamorous and beautiful, and slowly but surely starts twisting more and more until she's caught in a nightmare. Is
Just realized I'm not looking at you because I had the camera on the wrong thing. Sorry.
that's okay. That's kind of the quick high-low synopsis. Fortune and I are huge Edgar Wright fans, nerds,
Yes.
devotees.
Huge.
Um,
Huge. Yeah,
and if you've seen any of his movies, you know his movies are always incredibly well edited. They are visually spectacular. They are very musical and very commonly edited to the music. And they have a combination of seriousness and kind of tongue in cheek fun at the same
for sure.
time.
And he's also I could be wrong, but I believe he edits a lot of his films actually, or he's with the editor quite a bit. But I think some of his films, if you look at it, I think he is like the main editor, if I remember correctly. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
so sorry. My phone's going off.
that's all right.
But yeah, if you guys don't know who he is, he did, most of you have probably seen, he did Shaun of the Dead.
Yep,
He also did At World's End, which I actually loved as much as Shaun of the Dead. And
me
then he
too.
did Hot Fuzz, and then he did Baby Driver, and then he did Scott Pilgrim
My favorite.
versus
I
yeah, which
love
is
Scott
awesome.
Pilgrim.
Yeah,
I love
it's
that
so
movie.
good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And he was originally going to do Ant-Man, and from what I remember, Ant-Man only got made because he pitched a video that almost, that scene is in the movie almost shot for shot. They basically, yeah, redid it. But
yeah, but
so
like we talked about, Marvel's thing is to hire directors with recent successes, but not too many big movies. That way, it can still be a studio production, and they won't want to go too far into their creative vision. They'll kind of stick with
that's what it seems like.
it's a
Yeah,
common
that's
thing.
kind of what I think Dylan and I have come to, because it seems like a lot of really really good directors who try to come on board later, it doesn't seem like it really happens, or
Hmm.
they walk away.
Yeah,
Which to me is usually a sign with directors that have more of a foothold. Are like, I want to make my movie, otherwise why am I here? And
right.
if you're not going to let me make my movie, then I'm out, because another studio will probably let me make my movie.
But also, it makes
So
sense from Marvel's perspective. There's the whole, money making huge franchise thing, but also I get their perspective too, because at the same time, they're going for a shared universe that will feel the same across a lot of different stories, and that doesn't always work with creatives. You know what I mean? They're like, I want my movie to
that's true.
look and sound like this, and they're like, well,
Yes.
the franchise doesn't look or sound like that. You know what I mean? All right, well, creative
No, no,
difference is
no.
peace.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, I do understand that. I guess for me, they're very successful in creating exactly what they wanted. I give them credit for that. But I
Mhm.
guess for me, the side effect is, like, almost every Marvel film I've seen, aside from maybe three or four, are like, they're good, but they're very disposable. They're
Yep.
not really that memorable unless you're just a fan of the comics and you like seeing them alive. They're not really that interesting of films most of the time, because they're very generic is the best way to put them, because, like, I feel like that's the trade-off, right?
Yeah.
That's the trade-off for kind of that, like, that uniformity, that collection kind of thing is, they all do feel like the same universe. You do have a vision over the thing, which is probably good, but
Yep.
they're not going to be nearly as interesting as other films. Like, I don't expect them to blow my mind or anything. I expect them to be fine and fun,
Right.
and that's it.
And that they are, and that they shall remain.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but my thoughts on Last Night in Soho. Here's the thing. I think I kind of loved it. I was also a little disappointed, but
Mm.
due to my tastes, I think I liked it more than maybe some others will. You know what I mean? I think that it wears its inspirations very much on its sleeve. If you've seen any Dario Argento movies or know about kind of that version of Italian horror, if you've seen Suspiria or Phantasma,
Yeah.
you're going to be right
I
on.
haven't I haven't seen Phantasma, but I did like Suspiria. I saw the original Suspiria. Yeah.
Nice. Also, you know what? A lot of people clown on the remake, but the remake's pretty good, and I actually like what they do with the remake because they take the story of the original and expand it and focus in a different direction than the original did. So it's
Mm.
not quite a retelling; it's a divergent almost remake.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
and see, it's interesting because like your take is actually more common for me because I
Yeah.
know like a lot of local filmmakers and stuff, and a lot of filmmakers I know, a lot of them really liked the remake,
Uh huh.
and then it seems like a lot of the people in the public kind of trashed it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like my experience of what I've heard has been very different. Like most of the people I know personally thought it was really interesting. So,
Yeah.
and now you're another one saying that. So
Yep. That
I do need to watch it.
I thought it was. But last night in Soho, I think that okay, here's the thing. They're really kind of there are two leads in this movie, and then kind of a lead antagonist. The leads, as I mentioned, Thomas and Mackenzie and Anya Taylor Joy are both absolutely incredible in this movie. Anya Taylor Joy actually taking on a role that is much darker than I've seen her do before, which was really interesting to see because it's a direction that I didn't expect the movie to go. And then also Matt Smith is in the movie, who plays kind of
Yeah,
a
I saw that in the trailer.
yeah, he plays kind of this edgy boyfriend to Anya Taylor Joy's character, who you're kind of like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? What's his thing here? You know, is he glamorous and just kind of dark edge, or is there something there? And he does a great job too. So all the performances across the board were really great. The themes in the movie are incredibly obvious and really kind of in your face to the suggestion of what this movie is trying to say as a theme. Really obvious, but as far as like the good stuff, the meat of the movie, the story, the haunting. I thought it was really good. It's more of a slow burn than I expected, which I absolutely love. It really takes a long time till things start kind of taking that darker turn, and you recognize it instantly because very much like Dario Argento movies, it's very there are a lot of primary colors being used in the background, and when things are beautiful and lavish, it's a lot of reds, blues, and golds, and all of a sudden like you get to a scene and it's like green and purple and you're like something's wrong. Which is kind of cool.
That's awesome.
But
That's very different for Edgar Wright,
it
actually.
was
Like that's really
yeah.
interesting.
And another thing I mentioned, like most of his films are very witty. This movie's not very witty. It
Okay.
doesn't have that kind of comedy charm. It is played as a pure thriller, which I kind of liked.
Hmm.
Still very musical. The music is beautiful, and the editing along with the music is gorgeous. I try not to do this, but since I saw it a while ago, I was watching other reviews, and I've seen a lot of reviews kind of say a couple things that I'm going to repeat that aren't my words because I don't know if I agree with it. They've said
Okay.
that the movie is can feel a little soulless at times, and they have said that it falls apart in the third act. I don't think I agree on either of those areas. Um, I don't know where the soulless part is coming from, but I kind of want to talk about the third act because I think I know where they're coming from. This movie
Okay.
gets to the third act and the big reveals are starting to take place. And from that point, it wraps up very quickly. And also, not all of them feel 100% earned.
Mm,
But
okay.
after sitting on it for a moment and really watching it, I don't think this movie was trying to go for some big thematic Oscar bait kind of story. I don't, and I think that would be really easy to do coming out in a time like November when you have a big Edgar Wright movie. But I think
Hmm.
this movie felt like an homage to those Dario Argento movies, a really fun, messed up, dark thriller with some incredible lead characters. And that's exactly what I felt I got. And on top of that, the third
Hmm.
act is kind of on the nose because it's like they wanted to do some pretty big reveals and it doesn't come out of nowhere, but it also does feel like it pops up quickly. You know what I mean? But
Okay.
the reveals that do happen and the things that are discovered, I thought were pretty good and did kind of put the movie in a different light.
Interesting.
That's what I'll say there.
Okay. That's actually really interesting that you're comparing it. I've noticed you've compared it quite a bit to Dario Argento, and
Yeah.
very distinct style.
Yeah.
Even just Suspirious, and that's the only one I've seen of his, but very distinct. Even just like the opening 20 minutes, like I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
he likes color. I like color, so I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then some of the choices are things that I didn't expect. So yeah, that actually makes me more excited to see it actually,
Sweet.
because I had no idea, because the trailer really intrigued me, and I have to admit, a trailer could be a match that lights up and above it says new Edgar Wright film, and I'd be intrigued.
Yeah.
But I thought the trailer was really cool. Some really cool visual stuff going on. The premise seems interesting,
Yep.
and if I'm correct, it's what was it? Abigail Breslin who's in it too, or was it Anna Taylor? It was Anna Taylor Joy, but who was the
Thomas
lead
and
in the
Mackenzie.
Thomas and Mackenzie? Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Wow, I actually thought, because I only saw the trailer, I thought that was Abigail Breslin for some
Yeah.
reason.
No.
I am so
Thomas
wrong.
and Mackenzie. She was in the last movies I saw her in where she was in Old. She was great in that too. The M Night Shyamalan movie, and she was in Jojo
Yeah.
Rabbit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I've seen. I need to, now that I think about it, I'm like halfway through that. I need to finish that.
Mhm.
That was good so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen Old, aka the Aging Beach movie.
It is the Aging Beach
Based,
movie, and it was very much
I believe.
okay.
I believe it was based on a short story, from what I
Graphic
reading.
novel.
Was that what it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
called Sandcastle.
There you go.
Which is
Yeah,
a way
that's
better
what I read.
title than Old. Like a way
Old
better
is
title.
Old is a little on the nose, don't you think?
Like if they would have called that Sandcastle, it probably would have gone up a point in my book. But the name is stupid.
Well, I think I said that too when I saw the trailer. I was like, really? Like, isn't that a little on the nose?
It's like
it would be. I don't know what it would be.
What should we call this movie
I don't,
in the ocean about the fish called Nemo? Why don't we call it Fish? Oh, all right.
yeah,
Marketable.
yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's
I really like the title Sandcastle. But yeah, we'll deep dive this next episode because I'm gonna see it again with you this week. And I'm looking forward to that.
we're going to.
Definitely.
Definitely.
But this one is probably in my personal top 5 this year.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I have 3 really solidified in there right now. And I don't have any order yet, but the 3 movies that I know I've really thoroughly enjoyed from beginning to end this year are Pig, surprisingly with Nicolas Cage. I really loved it. Dune.
Yeah.
Which I surprisingly really loved it because I'm always weary about big blockbusters.
Yep.
And this Last Night in Soho, which is the least surprising. I expected to like it, and I did.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to think about my list. I don't know if I didn't do it just with films, if I did it with just projects, Midnight Mass would be probably at the top of mine.
Oh yeah,
right
that's
now.
by far my favorite project this year too.
Yeah, it's so good.
So good. So good.
We could do. I feel like we could do an entire episode deep dive on just that.
Just for an excuse to watch it all again, please.
I know, for real.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So films that are just cozy movies, like movies that like you can just turn on at any time, and they always make you feel warm and happy, and like you just love being there. Like that's the next subject we're going into right now.
The Human Centipede.
So, and this is the end of our podcast, guys. It's been real. I'm going to. We'll see you next week. And
I meant the Human Centipede too. Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dylan will be murdered later tonight. Like I can't. He won't be back. Like
all right.
No, I'm joking. If you love those, enjoy, bro. Like it's all good.
I don't.
I
don't.
I don't know if I believe you. I think you just like him.
Probably right.
It's all right if you like the Human Centipede. Just remember, everybody, Dylan loves the Human Centipede 1 and 2. He just admitted it. You actually have it recorded on a podcast. That's all I want to say.
It's not a conscious thing. It's an unconscious thing. I can't help it.
Okay, now we're getting into interesting things. So, I was just gonna say my picks off the top of my head. Projects that are really comfy, that I could always watch, essentially would be Who Framed Roger Rabbit, directed by Robert Zemeckis. It is one of my all-time favorite family films, and I say that almost like family in quotes, because it is very much a family film, but it's a family film from that era, which they tended to be a lot more mature, and I miss that. One thing I've learned as an adult is that nowadays everything they try to make everything really vanilla and like extremely G when it's a family film. So it might be
Mm.
enjoyable for kids, but you have no rewatch quality as you get older. Like when you come back to watch it, it just doesn't hold up, and you're just like, this is a kids movie. It's not very fun.
Yeah.
Back in the day, the movies had a level of maturity. Like I would put Roger Rabbit in the same realm as not the second, but the first Ninja Turtles movie. It's a very
Hmm.
mature film for being a Ninja Turtles movie. Um, and what that does is when you go back and watch it as an adult, usually still awesome. Like,
Hmm.
like you know what I mean? I still like the other Turtles movies too, but Turtles 1 I think is just a better film.
Yeah.
I feel that way about Roger Rabbit. You can come back to it as an adult, and not only is it wonderful, like just as 10 out of 10, but some of the jokes that you didn't understand when you were a kid, you're like, oh my god, this movie is so sexual. Like
Yeah.
throughout the whole film, like there are so many jokes that are not, like sexual jokes, and then just flat out adult jokes that are like they were not for kids, but it's perfect because the kid had no idea what that meant. Like it didn't matter, right?
Hmm.
But it's a film that you could always turn on for me. I think it has a brilliant plot. And Robert Zemeckis essentially did with animation what people do with 3D animation now. He did it with 2D animation. Essentially you're overlaying backgrounds with animation, you're rotoing people to wield cartoons with people. And if you think about this, this was like an early blueprint for what they did later with Space Jam, right?
Yep.
Like this movie did it first. And personally in this movie, it looks even more realistic because in Space Jam it's more like he goes into their world versus this movie it's actually about like trying to act like the real world and the toon world exist together on the same plane.
Hmm.
And I think that Robert Zemeckis pulls it off beautifully. If you guys haven't seen it, essentially the basic premise of Who Framed Roger Rabbit is like a super famous. They call them toons. Anything that's animated is a toon, and they're all from a world called Toontown, which basically has like a connection to the real world. Like they can come in and out of the real world, and technically you can go into Toon Town if you want. But Roger Rabbit is like a famous star. He's in all kinds of cartoons. He's like one of the biggest hit stars there is. And there's a guy played by good old Bob Hoskins. He's a detective who basically he's like a private investigator, and basically he's hired to follow Roger Rabbit's. He's hired to follow. I believe it's follow Roger Rabbit's wife because they suspect that maybe she's cheating on him
Film
because
noir.
the yeah, and it's very film
Yeah.
noir. It's like 50s 40s
Yeah.
like style film noir, and I love that too. So it's like so many things that I love all in once, all in one package, right?
Yep.
And so essentially they follow her, and then they catch her playing patty cake with the head of the studio, which this
Yep.
whole thing is basically like patty cake is like synonymous
Yep.
with sex, basically for a tune, right? So he brings the pictures, and there's this wonderful scene that's basically a mimicry of like a guy who hires a PI and finds out his wife's cheating on him, and he's breaking down, but like it's literally her paying patty cake, and there's literally a moment where the rabbit starts moving the picture so fast that it becomes an animation of the patty cake moment in action. It's just so good. Like it's fantastic. And it's got a tremendous cast. It's got Bob Hoskins, it's got Christopher Lloyd. I mean it's really just got a lot of meat to it. And if you have not seen it, I won't spoil the ending, but I'll say it's really interesting. It really is a crime noir while still being a funny family film. And there's a lot of subversion of um, there's a lot of subversion of what you would expect when you watch a film like this. Like a lot of things happen in the exact opposite way that you expect them to go.
Yeah.
But it's really clever. It doesn't feel random. It feels very grounded, even though it's such a weird movie. Like yeah, so it's a film I can always pop on, and the truth is, a big part of what makes it cozy for me personally is the memories connected to it. So like my mom loved this film too.
Mhm.
So my mom and I, when I was young, we used to watch this movie all the time, along with like Aliens and Predator and anything sci-fi. So Star Wars, Star Trek, those are all my mom for sure. But like anytime I watch Roger Rabbit, it kind of like brings up those like really warm feelings. Like I can't help it. Like whenever I watch Roger Rabbit, I'd love to just like make some popcorn or some food, curl up in a blanket and watch it. And I usually have a smile on my face the whole time because like I'm experiencing the film, but I feel like there's like this flooding of happy emotions that are coming from my past like the whole time I'm watching it as well. So I guess when it comes to cozy films, maybe it's the same for everyone. Maybe there's a psychological element to it as well. But a lot comes up when I'm watching that film, and I love the film on top of that. So it's basically like just a good time. Like I can always watch that film. I will always be happy. and I think it's a masterpiece that is worth watching for everybody if you have not seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's also based on a book called Who Censored Roger Rabbit, I believe.
Oh,
But
nice.
yeah, yeah.
um, I was kind of doing some thinking about my cozy movies. My obvious go-to is Lord of the Rings because I've seen
Yeah.
it so many times. It really is the movie I watch probably the most often. But I was trying to go back a little further than that.
Okay.
And I also have some games to talk about too. Um,
Ooh, okay.
First and foremost, you can't talk about cozy, awesome movies without talking about The Mummy and Brendan
No,
Fraser being the
it's a
greatest
great one.
character of all time in that movie.
He
If you
is.
haven't seen the movie,
I,
who hasn't seen the movie? But if you haven't seen
I love Rachel Weisz as much, by the way. Like I
yeah, she's still everybody's so good. And,
so
Arnold
good. Jonathan.
Vosloo, who plays Imhotep, is super
Yeah.
intimidating.
Jonathan.
Jonathan, yeah.
Imhotep.
The best
Imhotep.
character, as we all know, is Benny, by a long shot.
We love hating
He
Benny.
is
Like basically,
so
he played his
slimy.
part so well.
He's the
He is the
voice the
epitome
whole
of
time. Oh,
oh
it's
god.
terrible.
He is the epitome of a he is the yeah, he's the epitome of like a rat human.
Yeah,
Like in every way
absolutely.
possible.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited because I'm seeing Brendan Fraser pop up in so many projects with really, really great directors. He's going to be in the new Darren Aronofsky movie. He's going to be in the new Martin
Yes.
Scorsese movie. He's going to be,
I know.
he has a show on HBO called Doom Patrol right now. I'm just so grateful to see him getting work again because he was
Me too.
so charismatic and fun and awesome. And whether these upcoming roles is him being that or not, I'm just excited to see him 50 feet tall on a big screen again. I'm really excited.
Me too. I feel like I put him and Keanu Reeves in the same camp. We just love them. They're awesome
Yeah.
people. Like I always want to support them because they always seem. And also Brendan Fraser's story, from what I read, is pretty tragic. Like he got royally screwed quite a few times.
Yeah.
Do you know? I even love George of the Jungle. I
Yeah.
love that movie.
Yeah.
Freaking lion that's like when he was about to hit the tree. It's the stupidest movie, but it's so good.
Yeah.
And I also love it when like what is it, Lyle? He's being super condescending to like the African guy, and he's like, "Oh, here, gift from America," and he's like giving them Kodaks, and then the guy pulls out like a $5,000 camera, and he's like 35mm Zeiss, and then he shoots, like totally put him in his place. It's like, dude, go away! Like, what is wrong with you? And he was such an ass. The guy who played Lyle, he was so good at that part. Like he was, another character you just loved hating him. Like, ugh.
Yeah. You
Brendan
really
Fraser,
did.
man.
The villains in that movie. Here's the thing about The Mummy that doesn't exist anymore, and it hasn't existed, to my knowledge, since Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's the swashbuckling adventure movie. I think there were a couple attempts after Pirates of the Caribbean, things like The Lone Ranger, and maybe even like that new rock movie Jungle Cruise would be put in that category, but it's nothing like
Trying, yeah.
It had a groundedness, but also a fun adventure feel to it that you don't see anymore. In fact, you know what captures it better than any recent movie is the Uncharted game series. The music,
100%.
the
100%.
the jumping from continent to continent to find treasure, or whatever the goal is. It doesn't exist like that anymore. And
I love those games too. Like I'm with you.
Yeah,
I love those.
yeah.
So yeah.
And even along with The Mummy, the first Pirates of the Caribbean, and even going back to The Princess Bride, those are comfort movies for me. Just big adventure. I always
And that's Stephen Sommers though.
Yeah.
All of Stephen Sommers movies like that. Like he did The Mummy 1, 2. He did Van Helsing. He did.
I
To this day I love
Van
Deep
Helsing.
Rising. Van Helsing, it's kind of bad. It's kind of bad, but it's also kind of awesome. Like I don't know how it's what what that movie's like in the camp of The Harder They Fall. I can't like it, but I don't love it, but I'll watch it again.
I can
like I will.
And you know why I can like it is because the intro is like a callback to like the Bela Lugosi Dracula, and it's all like I want to suck your blood, like all that stuff. So the movie is it's cheesy, and then it goes into cool, but it's that cool that only existed in like 2000. You know what I mean?
It is.
Like,
and Stephen Sommer was the king of it.
Yeah.
Like and before that, was it 99 or 97? He did Deep Rising. I love Deep Rising. That's like that's like him doing his thing in like the monster movie world. Like basically like fucking freaking Treat Williams. Now what? Like every time he said now what, it was a bad omen. Like it was and was that early Famke Jensen? Yeah, Famke Jensen was in it. Oh, and you know what? That shows you. I'm pretty sure that actor is Stephen Sommers' friend because the guy who played Benny is in
Deep Rising.
Deep
Yep.
Rising. He's the long-haired guy who, in that one, he's actually endearing
He
and
was also in
annoying, but
Van
he's
Helsing.
nice.
He
Yeah, he
played
was. Oh,
Igor.
yeah, he was
He
Igor.
played Igor.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
Great
you're right.
casting. Great
Yeah.
cast.
Right, right,
Excellent cast.
right. And it shows you that there's something to it, because what is it? 10 years later, they tried to do a third mummy movie with, and it was
You know,
actually
I'm happy
atrocious.
you
Like,
bring that up because Jet Li was in that movie, and my
I
my
know,
other
and
comfort movie is
and
these
Michelle Yeoh.
and Michelle Yeoh. But you know what?
Yeah,
My other comfort movies are old martial arts films, especially the ones
me too.
I watched
Oh,
in my childhood.
dude,
Once Upon a Time in China being the one that comes to mind the most. And actually, while we were
that's
talking,
great.
I was looking up the IMDb page for Once Upon a Time in China because I didn't know how undercover this movie was. In fact, I typed it
Okay.
into IMDb and it didn't come up. Like I had to go into the search bar. Like I typed in Once Upon a Time in China. I typed out the full thing and it was like, do you mean Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Do you mean Once Upon a Time in Mexico? Do you mean Once Upon a Time in
And you're
America?
like,
And I was like, no. So when I entered it, I found it, and the synopsis absolutely kills me. And it's actually the last sentence in the synopsis. Okay, so this is what the IMDb synopsis of Once Upon a Time in China is. Late 1800s, Foshan Guangdong. Wang Fei Hung, played by Jet Li, trains men in martial arts to help defend against foreign powers already holding Hong Kong and Macau. He looks after cute 13th aunt who's just returned from England. Period. Lots of fight scenes. Period. And I'm not kidding. That movie has lots of fight scenes, and it's fucking dope.
Not wrong though. It's not wrong though. I think I told you I randomly saw the second one.
Yeah.
I think is when we discussed this. I haven't seen the first or the third, but I saw the second one like randomly. That one was cool.
Yeah.
Like I saw that one. One of mine's in that genre is Super Cop.
Hell
Like
yeah.
Super Cop to me, Super Cop is like a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Like to me in action. Like, and I think that Michelle Yeoh. I saw this interview with Michelle Yeoh recently where she did all of her own stunts, by the way, in that movie, including the motorcycle jump onto the train.
Yeah.
And it was to the point where she was doing such crazy awesome stuff that she cracked a joke that I think she was serious though. Jackie Chan came up to her and was like, "You have to stop because like I'm the star of this movie, and every time you one up me, I have to one up you again, and you're making me have to do crazier and crazier stuff."
Jeez. She was like, "Did you
But her
say
and
jump the thing onto the train?"
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah. And then Jackie was like super protective of her because she's doing everything. So like I guess the sequence where she rolls off of the top of the van that actually went wrong. And it was really bad. And then they couldn't brake, and then she actually ended up. Yeah, luckily she lived.
Yeah.
But right after that, Jackie was like, no, you can't do that again. He was like being protective, like the protective big brother.
Yeah.
And she actually told the action choreographer and the director, if I'm correct, in her interview, she said, no, let's go again right now. Because she realized if she didn't go again right now, she'd probably be too scared to do it again. And she didn't want that to happen. So she did it anyway.
Yeah.
Like Michelle Yeoh is a legend. Like I love Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah. Most people not know Jet Li from. I mean, before he came over to American cinemas, his big like martial arts thing that everyone knew about was it Fist of Legend? Was that what it was called?
I think Fist of Legend.
Yeah, Fist of Legend.
Basically it was the Chinese Connection remake.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, exactly. And they're right. That movie is fucking sick. The scene where he takes on like the entire show is so raw.
It is.
It's awesome. But
Yeah.
you know what? He was doing even better action scenes 3 years earlier in Once Upon a Time in China. And there is,
sure.
I think, I've only seen 3 of them, and I think there's more. I was just reading that there's going to be a huge Blu-ray release set, and I'm about to be on it because that's going to be a walk down memory lane for me.
I thought I read that there were 4.
If
but
there
I could be wrong.
I never saw the 4th one, but
okay.
The 2 that I remember the
I liked
most.
Forbidden Kingdom too with Jackie Chan. That was fun. That was so fun.
And I really miss kind of Jackie Chan's brand of action. Even a lot of his American movies I thought were really cool. Things like
Rumble in the Bronx.
Rumble in the Bronx was cool. Kiss the Dragon was pretty cool. Cradle to the Grave was kind of cool. Even The One was kind of cool.
Oh, Kiss of the Dragon was Jet Li.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry, I meant Jelly, not Jackie. I said
Oh yeah.
Jackie Chan
That,
because you brought up Super Cop.
oh yeah, yeah. No, no, no.
Yeah,
I got you. No, Kiss of the Dragon was probably my favorite American movie. That and Lethal Weapon 4.
yeah,
But like, I loved Kiss of the Dragon with Bridget Fonda,
yep.
and I think that's before. I think she retired from acting later. But yeah,
Hmm.
that was a good one. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, that scene at the end where the namesake, the kiss the dragon with the needle, is so
Yeah,
fucking tight.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so
so tight.
cool. It's so
Yep.
sick, bro. It's so sick. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love that they were almost like twins, but one was huge and one was. But then you think, oh, I'd rather fight the smaller one, until you realize he's like a freaking ninja that's super fast, and you're like, never mind, give me the big one back.
Yeah, yeah. And
It's like,
you don't this kind of genre of film kind of went out of the American mainstream eye after the early 2000s.
kind of did,
There are
yeah.
still like really great martial arts movies that we see, but it's not kind of the point of the movies anymore. It's usually, I mean, there are things that came out. They're not
The
American
Raid
movies.
did it
Yeah,
though.
but the
I feel
Raid
like the
wasn't
Raid's bringing it
American
back.
though. But you
Yeah, I
know what
guess
the
that's
Raid
true.
inspired, and it's not the same thing, but the physicality is close as the John Wick movies. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
for sure,
It's all about the
100%.
physicality. Even though it's not quite that hand to hand combat stuff, it's still actors moving in
Hmm.
incredible ways, like with insane, awesome violence at the same time.
Yeah, and it's inspiring other things because now you have Nobody, which I haven't seen yet, but I heard that's in
Yeah.
like John Wick inspired in a lot of ways too. And I love Odenkirk, so
Mm-hmm.
hopefully he's okay because he had like a heart
He is. Yeah, yeah.
situation where he.
He had a small heart attack on the set of Better Call Saul, but he has since recovered. They said it was small. He actually just got back to filming the final season of that show. Um, so I'm happy that we still have him around. That would have been absolutely tragic.
Yeah, I know. I know you. I love Breaking Bad. It's one of my favorites, and I know you keep talking about Better Call Saul, so I really need to watch that show. I saw the first like
Somehow it's
2
just as good.
episodes.
It's ridiculous. Like I can't believe
I know you.
it. And in fact, you know what? I haven't
What?
seen. So they're filming the final season. I haven't seen the season
Okay.
before that because I want the final
Oh,
season to be out before I start watching it because I don't want to.
so you can
Yeah,
binge them
exactly. I'm like, I
all.
want to have something to look forward to when I finish this season.
No, you know what though? I can't say anything because it's true. Like having streaming services has spoiled me because now I cannot stand being on a cliffhanger and having to wait a week or two, or it's
Yeah,
like the mid-season break. That drives me absolutely nuts now. I have
same.
no patience for it. Like I would rather wait for it to come to Netflix. Like I want to be able to go through the whole thing. Like I genuinely do. I'm with you.
But you know
So
what did just come back that I may have to go on a weekly cycle for is I think it may have came out already or it's
Dexter.
yeah, it's Dexter. Have you watched it yet?
No, but it was premiering I think last night.
All right, I
And
gotta watch
my
it.
first thought was I knew you had gone and seen Eternals, and I was like, I wonder if he's watching Dexter night right now because I
I
know
should
that
have.
we were talking about it.
I gotta find a. I don't have Showtime, so I gotta find a. I gotta see the best way I want to watch it.
Yeah, I don't have Showtime either. Like if you have Prime, you can watch it, but you of course it's not really through Prime. It's like through Showtime.
Who the hell
So
has
yeah, I don't know.
Showtime in this year? Are you guys still using cable?
I don't use cable.
I meant the
I use
audience.
I pay for yeah. If anybody wants to shoot us your Comcast,
Are you still using cable?
or anybody got a Showtime subscription that you don't mind having another
Right.
box
I bet
on?
they have a 30-day free trial. Maybe I wait it out
They
until
have.
most of the season's out.
I think I saw a 7-day one, so you can wait for the
Son of a
season to be
bitch.
over, and then you can wait for the season to be over, and then do a 7-day one.
God. But also, I know we're kind of hitting like a good time, but I also want to talk about cozy games because we both are,
For sure,
avid gamers, and this is also pretty near and dear to me too. Um,
sure.
I think when it comes to cozy games, like those times when I feel like a little bit more isolation, don't feel like maybe playing something multiplayer, or maybe I just want some alone time. My go-to all the time is the Soul series.
Yeah, for sure,
It
for sure.
is it's incredible. I've been playing them since Demon Souls launched. I think it was 2009 ish.
That sounds about. It's somewhere around there.
And I actually bought it off a terrible suggestion because I went and I think I wanted like an Elder Scrolls game or something like that. I remember being really young talking to the guy about that, and he said, "Well, there's this game and it's kind of like Elder Scrolls, but it has multiplayer." And I was like, "Shut the fuck up! What do you mean?"
What a
And
terrible
what a
description.
terrible salesman! What a terrible salesman! But
Or he's a really good car salesman,
right,
basically, because he got you to buy
he really
it.
did, and I did, and I got home, and I was like, "This isn't like Oblivion or like whatever I wanted to play, at the time." And from there, I beat it 15 times. You know what I mean? Like again and again and
Yeah.
again. I couldn't stop playing. And all of the mechanics that really kind of make those games unique. I was reading about it. And Miyazaki, the lead designer of these games, he is Japanese. It's a Japanese developer, but the games are influenced around Western fantasy, which is kind of cool and exciting to see a
Interesting.
Japanese take on Western fantasy. And the way the story is delivered is there are very few cutscenes, but those that are usually character introductions with hints to a larger plot going on. But all of the
Hmm.
story is told through item descriptions or conversations with NPCs. So essentially, you're lost in this
Yeah.
land and you can kind of piece it together slowly. I was reading
Yeah.
that he designed it that way because he loved Western fantasy growing up as a child and he would read the books, but because he wasn't fluent in English at the time, he could only understand so much of it. So he would have to use his imagination to fill in the gaps of the things that he didn't understand.
Oh,
So,
so he's recreating that experience for the gamers here,
yeah,
basically.
exactly.
That's really cool.
So, on top of that, you're not necessarily alone in these games. You do feel alone because they are brutally difficult, and it takes a long time to understand how to kind of be efficient at them. Uh, but you can summon other players to help you who are also struggling through these areas. Thing is,
Hmm.
they can appear in your game and they can help you through a section of the game, but you can't talk to them and they
Nope.
can't talk to you. So it's this interesting feeling of being alone, but also knowing there's a bunch of people around you who are struggling and want to help you at the same time. And vice versa, you can
Yeah,
help them.
it is.
So the combination of
Eh,
all these things have carried through all the games: Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne. Sekiro didn't have the multiplayer part. Sekiro was a little more straightforward of a
It was more
story.
story. Yeah, I would also recommend you guys, if you're gonna play the series,
Mhm.
the second one, play the Scholars of the First Sin version. I believe that's what it's called.
Yeah,
That version is fantastic. The version before has some weird
yeah.
things that
And
make it feel a little
the
weird,
funny
but
thing about Dark Souls 2, because it feels disjointed, it wasn't directed by Hidetaka Miyazaki. It's the only one he didn't direct, in fact. It was somebody on his team. And, a lot of people who are like hardcore fans always say that one's the worst for that reason. But I also agree that it's the worst in the series, but I also think it's really good. It's like
I do.
the worst of great.
I think I think the Scholars of the First Sin is actually kind of fantastic.
Me too.
I liked it. I actually when they came out with that version, I actually liked it. I pretty much liked the whole series. Like I
Yeah.
remember two I liked, but I thought it was lacking a little. And then Scholars of the First Sin was like, oh, this is great. Like I was like, now the series seems like a series. Like it seems like each one's just really good.
Yeah.
Like at that point.
And then Bloodborne came out, and I was like, he ditched the Western fantasy, and I was like, wait, you're doing Victorian horror and Lovecraft? Did you make this for me? What are you doing? Did you make this for me?
Definitely made it for you.
Yeah, and I bring this up because it's been on my mind because a game that if you love these games, you've been waiting for it as well. Elden Ring is a couple months out. And in
Oh,
fact,
I
they
cannot
just
wait.
started pre-orders for it, and it's the rare occasion where I actually pre-ordered and I got a hold of the collector's edition, which I'm really excited about.
What do you get in the collector's edition? Because I haven't pre-ordered it yet.
Big art book, music, small statue thing, which I don't know what I'll do with that. I don't have anything like that. But and
Hey, when you're streaming, put it behind you when you're
yeah,
streaming.
yeah, true.
Have like your memorabilia around behind you.
But you know what the big thing for me is I'm just a sucker for box sets, and it's a cool box.
Yeah.
I'm like a
You know what's
cat.
funny? What's fun? Oh, Dylan.
I like the box.
Buki, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear that? He's meow laughing, I swear. You know what's funny? I don't really care about box sets except for I have that amazing Quentin Tarantino box set, and it's so cool. Like it's so Tarantino in design
Yep.
that it's one of the coolest
We
things
have the
that
same
I own.
one, right?
It's a DVD. Yeah, it's a DVD
Yeah.
set. Yeah, we both have it. Yeah,
Which
I
is
think that's the coolest thing that I
I
own.
will replace that after his final movie. I'll get like the
Yeah,
big compendium, but until then,
yeah, because it doesn't have it doesn't have anything up to Django. Like
yeah,
it stops after Inglorious Bastards, I believe.
yep,
So
that's right. But it is a beautiful set. The art is awesome.
it is really is.
But yeah, so I'm excited for Elden Ring. It's the first time the game is going to be completely open world, and there was a 15-20 minute gameplay preview the other day, and I was just watching it like a kid in a candy store, like, ooh, you could do that, ooh, that's how that works, ooh. Um, and I'm very excited.
Oh, I saw that.
Did you see
I
it?
saw that. Yeah, it looked dope. I think I posted on Twitter. I was like, after seeing this campaign, my first build will 100% be a double sword build. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I love double swords anyway, and I saw that I could do that in the gameplay, and I was like, I don't care what it is. I'm gonna go like a full max total like kamikaze glass cannon double sword high dex probably
And
build. It's
al-
like my plan.
also, every once in a while, like I was mentioning, like was Bloodborne made for me? You find those creators who just like they create something that is so much your taste.
Yeah.
Elden Ring, the new game coming out, is co-created or co-written with George R. R. Martin,
Yep.
the creator of Game of
I
Thrones. So I'm
know.
just sitting here like, dude, like I'm so grateful
Yeah.
to be alive when you're alive. Thank you for making
Yeah.
this.
Like he did like I think George R. R. Martin did like the world building,
Yeah.
some of the world building, and then they wrote a story like within that world and then developed the creatures and
Hmm.
everything from what I was reading. It seems really, really cool.
Exactly. But those are my cozy games. What do you like to play?
Um for okay, so a cozy game. I would say back in the day, one that I always came back to was the original Starcraft, but it was more
Mm,
so like I love the story, Starcraft and its expansion Brood War. If I had to pick one game that is my number one favorite game of all time, probably Starcraft and Starcraft Brood War, the first
hmm.
one. This campaign was absolutely fantastic. Like you could probably do a trilogy or like five Hollywood style movies that were blockbusters just following that story as long as you got
Nice.
good actors and a great directors. It's so good. But I also love PV. I love PvP. I like multiplayer, and that was one of my favorite games of all time. Like so, like I could get on with. I was in a clan. I used to play. We called people called our group Evanla because that was the channel we hung out in. But I played with a guy named Ryan Tirith. Man, I remember these names: Ryan Tirith, Crazy Dash Goku, Showdown Pro, and Van Helsing. Like that was my friend group, and we were good enough that clans used to keep track of their stats against each top clan. We weren't a clan; we were just a group of friends,
Hmm.
but we were called Evanla on the clan bots,
Oh, nice.
and and a lot of times our stats were like up there with the best clans. Like
Yeah.
we were, and I learned a lot from Ryan and Goku and Show, and at the time, I just kind of ran into them, and they taught me a lot. Yeah. So if you guys ever hear this, just randomly, love you guys. Some of the best times of my life were actually on StarCraft and on Halo 2.
Yeah.
Some friends that I have till this day were from those games.
Yeah.
So StarCraft was definitely one. I would say now in current time, um, lately a cozy game that I could just hop on and just play is the new one, New World. Like New
Yeah.
World is it's my first MMO. I typically I refuse. I won't pay monthly for a game in 2021. To me, it's just a rip off model. You don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So I totally down for Blizzard to do what they want, but like Blizzard and Final Fantasy, they're monthly, so I won't play them. Like, but this game had all these cool things that I really thought were awesome with the factions and being able to control different territories. The crafting system seemed really cool. All this stuff, and then sure enough, it's just you buy, you don't pay monthly, so I'm in. Like,
Yeah.
like it's like, and it's my first MMO, and I'm really loving it. Like, really, really loving it. The crafting system and the store are fantastic on its own. If you like making money and just being smart and undercutting people, and then finding out like seriously if you if you are good at looking at the markets and being like there's no reason this should be that price, especially since you know where to go get it and
Yeah.
other people don't, you're like screw this. Like I was in a store and some asshole was charging $50 per unit for peppercorn.
Son of a
And I was
bitch.
like, "Are you serious?" Like, I love how you said that,
Son of
son
a
of a bitch.
bitch.
But I'm like, yeah, I went and picked like 20 of them, and then I was like, you know what, screw it. This is still overpricing it, but $20. Like, I just undercut him. Like, I was just
They're like, damn.
yeah. And then my friend did that with the oil market. He basically undercut the oil market and made so much money that out of spite, people were trying to undercut him. So just to be a dick, he took like 1,000 units and just undercut him for 1 cent a piece.
And
Like
this
you
is
literally
made by
can't go.
Amazon?
yeah, it's
Oh,
Amazon. Yeah.
interesting.
I know, right? Great market system. Fantastic.
Fascinating.
So it's almost like Amazon knows something about like commerce and market
Right.
systems with and crafting and building things and reselling them on stores. As a matter of fact, the market they have every section you can think of. Like it's
They
crazy, right?
really
Like
do.
although a lot of people tell me the crafting system is similar to a crafting system in RuneScape, which I've never played, so I can't
Oh
really
man, I
say
played
much.
so
But
much of that in middle school. We would
oh,
go
you did?
to
You were one of the. Yeah,
yeah,
apparently it's literally the RuneScape. Like a lot of people are saying it's the RuneScape crafting system or very similar. That's what a lot of
that's
people
pretty
told
cool.
me.
We used to go to the library after middle school, and you would get like an hour on the computer, and we would play RuneScape. It was a blast.
Yeah, like it's funny. That's what my friends used to do, and I'm older than you.
Yeah,
And I remember when I was in the library, I was like in high school or something, like the first couple years of high school, and RuneScape was brand new, like
yeah,
brand new, and there were people playing it, and I was like, "Why are you playing that?" And they're like, "It's free, and it's an
yeah.
RPG."
You're
And
like,
like,
what?
and at the time I was like, "Huh?"
Yeah,
And I was like, and my first thought was, if it's free, it has to suck, so I just
yeah.
didn't play it. And then later, I found that I missed on this awesome thing, and I
Little
was
did
like,
you know.
really? Like, I was like,
Little did
little
you
did I
know.
know. Exactly.
It
Yeah,
was
missed
awesome.
out. And apparently, people still play it now. It's like what, 20 years? No, I'm not that old. 15 years later. God, I'm old. Anyway, but yeah, it's like yeah, it's crazy. Like,
Yeah, I think I haven't played it since middle school, but I think I saw in some sort of advertisement or something. There's like a classic edition, and there's like a newer edition, so you could play like that classic experience that we're talking about, or they have an
oh really?
updated one with new graphics.
They basically did like what they did with WoW, where they have WoW Classic,
Yeah,
and then they have like the new. That's kind of hilarious.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, think about being able to sustain for that long on a free game. Like you clearly did something right because you clearly, I'm sure, made a profit.
yeah.
But on a free game, like that's pretty awesome.
They did kind of what you would expect them to do. Is they had a free model, and then if you paid, you can go to like a whole new continent kind of thing.
Cool.
But the free model was still insanely expensive, and you could play it for years. Yeah,
Clearly.
yeah, clearly.
But yeah, that's one of
Awesome.
my cozy games. And like I said, Roger Rabbit, and one I don't really feel like I need to get into, but I would say Harry Potter series is another one. I read the books, I love the books, and I think they did such a good job with the movies that it's another set of movies that you could put in any of them really. And I just love being in the world and being around the characters so much that it's always cozy. Like that's. But I feel I don't really need to go into Harry Potter because we kind of did that in other podcasts. But yeah.
What's your favorite
So
one?
my favorite book was The Prisoner of Azkaban. It's definitely one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
So I'll probably say Prisoner of Azkaban. I mean, great direction too.
it's my favorite.
Good
It's my
director.
favorite one too. I love Prisoner of
Yeah.
Azkaban, and then I also really like I really like geez, why am I forgetting the final title of part 1 and 2,
Oh,
the two
oh,
part
oh, Deathly Hallows Part
Deathly
Two.
Hallows. I really like the Deathly
Yeah,
Hallows. Yeah,
Deathly Hallows Part Two was really good. And honestly, I thought out of the movies, I really, really liked Order of the Phoenix too. The
yeah.
movie, like they did a great. I thought they did a great job with that. That also, by the way, I think it was trailer number 3, one of the sickest edited trailers ever at the time. Like the syncing in that
Ah,
trailer, like till this day, I don't remember all of it, but the syncing up to the climax was amazing. There's even a shot where they synced Dumbledore grabbing the Phoenix and it exploding to a Death Eater apparating in, and it
yep.
syncs so perfectly on the beat that it's absolutely marvelous. Like I remember, like like I remember those were like the years where I started loving trailer editing, and I started noticing that was one. It was either the second or third trailer, but yeah, it was one of the. It's still probably it might be one of my top 20 movie trailers, like for sure. It's such good editing,
Very
good stuff.
nice. All right, man. Well, this has been a blast, especially for us to
Totally.
kind of go off the cuff a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like we followed our plan, but it also became a little bit of a mixed bag in there too. So
yeah, exactly. Well, let's survive this upcoming rainstorm that we are expecting to see for the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, by the time we meet again like this, we'll have a little bit of sunshine to talk about before the snow comes. But we'll see how that looks.
yeah, should be. I mean, there's a new season of Apex Legends, so I've got that to play until Halo Infinite comes out, and then we have Elden Ring too. So like, I think during this rainy season, I think we're both gonna be fine.
I think we'll be just
and
fine.
you're tearing and you're just kicking ass on Guilty Gear. By the way,
Oh,
by the
thank
way,
you.
everyone, Dylan's super modest. He is sponsored on Team STG,
Oh,
and he's doing super well in Guilty Gear. He's literally a pro Guilty Gear player. He's even won a tournament, a big tournament now, which is awesome. You got that under your belt.
well,
So
I have friends who have
you're
won
not just
multiple, so they're
yeah.
you know
So you've
we're
won
getting
one,
there.
and you've gotten like top 3 or 4 in like multiple. So you're clearly one of the best. He's really good, guys. Don't let him underplay
Well, thank you. I am carried. I don't know how to play fighting games, and if it wasn't for the buttons that press themselves, I would be nothing.
ah ah
No, but
Well, you
thank
need
you.
to show me what controller you're using, brother, because I need that one.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a blast. I do.
You're very welcome.
I will deep dive into my love of fighting games one episode. But
Yeah, that's got to be an episode here, like for
yeah,
sure.
next week I'm traveling to Los Angeles for a regional tournament that I'm looking forward to.
Hmm.
Hopefully, I can. It's my first time traveling or being anywhere near an airport in the last 2 years.
Yep.
So that should be an experience. I'm looking forward to it. But then after that,
You know,
I will be. I have the privilege of working from home, which is great. So when I get back, I get to kind of self isolate for a little bit and make sure everything is good to go.
yeah, I think you're gonna have a great time, and I will be watching with Twitch with popcorn and just cheering you on, brother.
Oh, why? Thank you. Why? Thank you. Well, all right, man. You have a wonderful
All right,
night.
guys.
Can't wait till the next one, and I will see you later this week for round 2 of Last Night in Soho.
For sure. Thank you, everybody, for coming to Cinescussion. We love you guys. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Later.